Guys, I am here today to talk to you about my Wolves series. I had published Wolves in the Woods, the first book, in 2014, and I thought it was time to talk to you about some trends I've been seeing in my reviews and online about this book series. First, I think it's important for you to know why I wrote such a dark and controversial set of books. I talk about this a lot in in-person events, but I haven't really said too much about it here on my page. I wrote my very first book when I was 15. It took me about 10 years to write. It was very sad and hard. It was about the loss of my twin brother. And when I finished it, it was very symbolic for me in a lot of ways. But one of the good things from it was that I discovered how much I love to write. So I figured I would keep writing and at the same time kept having this reoccurring dream of a girl with long blonde hair running through a field and into the woods. So one day, finally, I said, okay, I'm going to write it down. And that is where Wolves in the Woods came from. I had no intention of publishing this book. I wrote it simply for fun and to pass the time because I had two babies at the time. So I wanted to do something just for me. You moms and dads will understand that. So I finished this book and I shared it with my oldest brother and my mom and a friend. And they all told me individually that I should try publishing it. I had no idea anything about the publishing industry. I knew nothing. I didn't even know where to start. So I had to learn it all from scratch. I got an editor. I sent out 52 letters to try and get this book published and got 52 rejections and a couple of scams until finally I got a yes from a publisher. Now, keep in mind, I knew nothing about editing at the time. And although Wolves in the Woods was edited, it wasn't perfect because it was my first book. It's still my first book. It's been professionally edited 3 times since, rewritten completely once, and it's still my first book. It's still rough. But that isn't what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk to you about was the controversial topics that I talk about in Wolves in the Woods and the series. I like to talk about controversial subjects that nobody else brings up. So part of the reason why I had these topics in this book was because I enjoy talking, I enjoy discussions on deep topics. And also part of it was me facing my own fears. So what topics am I talking about? Well, if you read the series, you know that Timber is a narcissist and evil. And he's also a rapist and abusive. So those are the topics that I hear most in my reviews. So I wanted to talk to you about why I chose to talk about rape and abuse. So one of the reasons was because I am thrilled with the women empowerment movement, with Me Too and all of that, but I feel sometimes like we leave behind the women who choose to stay. And let me explain. First, Wolves in the Woods is a fiction book. There was an apocalypse. Braylon was a child when her entire family dies and she's left completely on her own. She has no one to guide her, no one to tell her not to mess with a narcissist at all. So when Timber comes into her life and is abusive, she makes the decision to stay with Timber. Why did I do that? The biggest reason was because it's an apocalypse and she decided she chose strength over love. That's the message that I was going for. But more than that, over the years, I've realized I did have another message and another reason why I kept it that way and have never rewritten it. And that reason is because sometimes women do choose, and men choose, to stay in abusive relationships. Not necessarily sexual or physical. It can be emotional. It can be, any kind of abuse. And sometimes people do choose to stay in those relationships. Why do they choose to stay? They don't have any hope, or feel like they don't. They feel trapped. Narcissists are incredibly manipulative, just like Timber is in the book, where he leads her to believe that he's the best candidate for this X, Y, and Z reason. So sometimes that's why they choose to stay. But that wasn't my point in keeping this book, and it upsets me when I see reviews that only focus on the fact that she chose to go back to a man who raped her and chose to stay with a man who abused her. My point was that in the end, she figures out for herself, without any guidance, that she is strong enough to get away from him, that she is worth it, that she can survive all of the things that she went through and is good enough to get away from him. That was the message that I was hoping to pass along in Wolves in the Woods. Another thing I hear about a lot in reviews and is about the fact that Erevan came to rescue her. And that bothers people because with the women empowerment movement lately, we want to believe that it's not okay to be rescued. But in my own life, I have been rescued more than once, not just by men, by women too, but a man literally saved my life once, my twin brother, actually. And after his death, I had to admit that I needed help, and I had to ask for help. I had to be rescued, if you want to call it that. And I feel like sometimes we make it so much about women empowerment that we make it not okay to ask for help. And that bothers me, because if I had not asked for help, I would not be sitting here talking to you guys today. I would be in a very bad place, maybe even dead. So that was one of the other things that I was hoping to pass along with Wolves in the Woods, that it is okay to be in a place where you need to ask for help. And it is okay to ask for help. And it is okay to let people help you. I am not good at that. I am not good at asking for help. I am not good at letting people help me. All of my friends and family watching this know that for a fact. However, I think it's an important message that sometimes gets missed in the women empowerment movement and in all of this self-discovery movement that I've seen on social media. So I just wanted to pass these couple of messages on to you guys. I hope that you have learned a bit about me and about my Wolves series. I love having kind and intelligent and productive discussions about controversial topics like this. So if you guys have any questions about my Wolves series or about these topics or about why I wrote what I wrote, I would love to discuss it with you. So thank you so much for watching, guys.